Now I have the distinct privilege of introducing to you the senior senator from the great state of Utah, whose task here tonight is to, is to honor another great man and also to prove that bipartisanship in Washington is not yet dead. Senator Orrin Hatch.
Worked very closely with Eric Holder, who's a wonderful man, and did a very fine job as Attorney General of the United States. That's all I'm going to say about Eric tonight. I'll get in trouble if I say anything more. But I'm here specifically to honor one of the great men of the United States House of Representatives, a man that I have a lot of regard for. And it's an honor to be with you tonight, and an even greater privilege to pay tribute to my dear friend, Representative Jim Clyburn. Jim is no ordinary congressman. As the president himself said, when Jim Clyburn speaks, people listen. And frankly, when Orrin Hatch speaks, people usually fall asleep, so I've apologized. It's a tremendous privilege to be here tonight. We commemorate the legacy of Lyndon Johnson, and I've been privileged to be with his two daughters here this evening and other friends of Lyndon Johnson. It's been a tremendous thing, and Chuck Robb, who's an old friend from the Senate. But it's a privilege to be here to commemorate the legacy of Lyndon Johnson, and we recognize a statesman who honors that legacy, Congressman Jim Clyburn. Prior to assuming the presidency, Lyndon Johnson had a storied career in Congress, one of the greatest. He was a leader of unparalleled principle, determination, and work ethic, who was so steadfastly committed to the principle of justice that he dedicated his whole life to it. As a well-respected chairman of civil rights, Congressman Jim Clyburn follows in LBJ's footsteps. I've been blessed to know Jim for a long time. When we first met, he had just come to Congress, and I just celebrated my 150th birthday. I don't think you should have laughed at that much. Early in our friendship, Jim and I had a memorable conversation about growing up and having to prove ourselves. Some years later, we attended a charity golf tournament together in Park City, Utah. After a day on the links, I told Jim that if he ever needed anything from me, he only had to call, and sure enough, he did. Not long after our golf tournament, Jim asked for my help in passing a bipartisan bill that would help to preserve the Gullah Geechee culture. That's a little hard word for me to say, but it sounds good, along the Atlantic coast. The bill had passed the House but was placed on hold in the Senate. So on the same day that Jim taught me how to pronounce the words, I better think this through, Gullah Geechee, I had the bill hotlined and passed in the upper chamber. That's the beauty of golf and friendship. And it's a friendship that I'm very grateful for. And Jim is truly one of the most principled people that I know in the Congress of the United States. Over the many decades of his life, he has devoted his life to civil rights and to the civil rights movement. I'll repeat it again, but as a boy, he was elected president of his NAACP's youth chapter when he was just 12 years of age. As a college student, he organized sit-ins and protests to speak out against oppression. As a young man, he met and worked alongside of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I wish I'd have had that privilege, but he did, and he deserves our plaudits for that. I'm proud to call Congressman Clyburn my personal friend. He means a lot to me. He means a lot to this country. And I can say that he's a great man, and he's an exceptional person in every way. I know of no one who really is dedicated to the principles of liberty and justice for all as much as he is. And I know of no one more deserving of tonight's award, which is a great award. In recognition of his many accomplishments, I would like to introduce a special tribute video honoring my friend, Congressman Jim Clyburn, and wish you, Jim, a wonderful evening and a wonderful many, many years to come in the Congress and in life. God bless you.
The LBJ Foundation honors Congressman James Clyburn, civil rights leader, the first African-American to be elected to Congress from South Carolina in 95 years, chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, House Majority Whip. For nearly 60 years, James Clyburn's public and private sector life has been one filled with activism and a concern for all people.
When you talk about Lyndon Johnson and you talk about Jim Clyburn, you're talking about two men who defied convention in the South to make a real difference in the quality of living.
He took a valiant stand in the struggle for civil rights, even going to jail for what he believed.
We were committed to doing what we could to battling the powers that be. We were fearful, but we were fearless. And we did what we thought was necessary to challenge the system.
Though even in tough times, a ray of light came to him in the form of love.
The first time I went to jail, while waiting to be bailed out, my wife, Emily, who was not my wife at the time, came to the jail to visit and bring food. She walked in with this hamburger in her hand. I walked toward her, and I reached for it. She pulled it back and broke it in half. Gave me half of the hamburger. She ate the other half. I was so grateful. I married her 18 months later.
James moved on from teaching and stepped into the political arena, winning an election for the ages. He immediately earned the respect of his congressional peers.
He's one of my idols in terms of someone who's always stood on principle and someone who's always fought for others.
Jim Clyburn is a very special person. He's not one who hoards credit. He encourages others to follow their ideas, but he also enhances those ideas.
It's this insight that powered him to push forward numerous pieces of major legislation, including his landmark 10-20-30 initiative. This visionary initiative sends funds into poor communities so they can have quality schools and health care.
10-20-30 is really an extension of the war on poverty.
Congressman Clyburn demonstrated swift and inspired leadership when he addressed the fatal shooting at Emmanuel AME Church in his beloved Charleston, South Carolina.
Please break your silence. If we stay silent, they'll win.
During his exceptional political career, he never lost sight of what matters most.
When you see him talk about his wife, Emily, his daughters, and what they have, he lights up.
His love for family includes his community. James even hosts a world-famous fish fry political fundraiser, giving back to volunteers and welcoming all comers.
We don't charge anybody. We have it in this big city garage. They have 3,000 and 4,000 people, presidential candidates, and eating fish and drinking cold water. Every now and then, cold beer.
Respected from the streets of South Carolina to Pennsylvania Avenue, Congressman Clyburn is a man President Obama says is one of a handful of people who, when he speaks, the entire Congress listens.
He's also one of the people that when he speaks to the president listens.
I cannot think of anything other than maybe the night that I was elected to Congress when anything in my public life has meant as much to me as this award.
Because of his tireless service and countless contributions to our great nation, we honor Congressman James Clyburn with the LBJ Liberty and Justice for All Award.
Please welcome to the stage the recipient of the 2015 Liberty and Justice for All Award, Congressman Jim Clyburn. And presenting the awards tonight are the daughters of LBJ, Lucy Baines Johnson and Linda Johnson Robb.
Thank you very, very much. Lucy, Linda, the Johnson family. I often think about my relationship with Orrin Hatch. he didn't tell you about the breakfast that I was having one morning. It was a fundraiser trying to raise money to defeat Republicans. And the door swung open, and in walked Orrin Hatch. I thought he had gotten lost. And I hastened to let him know that he was in the wrong place. He responded by letting me know that he had come to the right place. And I thank him so much for that friendship. I'm going to still work with him a little bit more on how to pronounce Gullah. Gullah. I want to thank the members of this foundation for honoring me in this way. I meant it when I said that other than getting elected to Congress, I can't think of anything in my public life that has meant as much to me as receiving this award. I have a lot of people to thank. I was very fortunate to have two loving, nurturing parents who grounded me firmly in religion and public life. I've been very fortunate to spend the last 54 years of my life with a very loving and supportive wife who could not be with us this evening because, as some of you know, she recently suffered a stroke. She's doing fine. But she doesn't want to get on an airplane for a while, so she could not be with us tonight. But my family is represented this evening by my daughter Mignon, who I see finally graced us with her presence. My brother John is around here somewhere. I hope, John, thank you so much for being here. And I have two other lovely daughters who could not be here. One, Jennifer, is a public school teacher who, although she has successfully been awarded her doctorate degree, she still teaches because that's what she loves to do. And my daughter Angela, who is expecting our fourth grandchild any day now. So she could not be here. But I have another family, an extended family, the members of Congress who are here, many who could not be here this evening. These have been just an extension of my family. And I want to thank all the members of Congress, House and Senate, for being here this evening. Thank you so much. And I have a staff. I think I take a lot of credit for a lot of things. Most members of Congress take credit for things they didn't do. But I want to thank my staff. I see a lot of them right here. I want to thank the staff here for being here, as well as a lot of the staff of some of the other members who have been extensions of my staff for me, and I want to thank all of them. Then there are some friends from South Carolina who came up just to be here tonight. I want to thank you for the tremendous support you've given me over the years. Thank you so much. Now, I would love to get this award at any time, but to be receiving it in the 50th year of what I consider to be the most productive legislative year in the history of the United States Congress means a whole lot to me. Earlier today, we voted to go to conference on the elementary and Secondary Education Act. Some of you may call it, I saw something written saying the reauthorization of Leave No Child Left Behind. No, no, no. Whatever name you may give it, the fact of the matter is, within 1 month of Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965, Congress passed the first national commitment to elementary and secondary education, and we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of that this year. I'm hopeful that this conference will produce a piece of legislation that will continue Lyndon Johnson's dream of every child getting a fair education. Lyndon Johnson started his career, public career, professional career, as a school teacher, teaching less than privileged children. And 1 month after the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Congress passed and President Johnson signed into law Head Start. So we are celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of Head Start. Just 2 months later, Congress passed and the President signed into law, I believe it was July 30th, 1965, Medicaid, Medicare. We are celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare. All of this happened before the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which was signed into law on August 6, 1965. And 1 month later, HUD was created. Wasn't stood up until January 1966, but Congress created it in 1965. And before the year was over, we outlawed for the first time in October 1965, we outlawed immigration quotas in this country. And then in November of 1965, we made the first national commitment to higher education for everybody. If you go back and look, you will see that the Great Society programs did not fail. They are still with us today, and we owe Lyndon Johnson tremendous credit. I'll close with this. My father was a fundamentalist minister who taught me to keep a Bible next to my bedside, and I do. I keep the Bible and McCullough's biography on Harry Truman at my bedside. Every now and then something would come up and I would want to know what would Jesus do. But every now and then I want to find out what would Harry do. And I believe very strongly in that proverb, where there is no vision, the people perish. I believe that our country is crying out for visionary leadership, and I would hope the little gesture tonight between me and Orrin Hatch will contribute to us doing that in a bipartisan way. Thank you so much.